Good evening, guys. I have discussion C for you. Now, tonight's discussion C, I thought I'd do a little fun twist on exploring elder care in ancient times. So, with that being said, here we go with tonight's C. Sit back and enjoy, please. Here are the main points from the article you're viewing, distilled into a clear, structured summary that highlights the themes most relevant to your work on aging, dignity, and cultural framing. Core takeaway: the article argues that Britain should look to ancient societies, especially ancient Greece, for models of honoring, integrating, and valuing older adults, contrasting those traditions with today's more dismissive or stereotyped views of aging. Rosenwein's central argument: emotional death persists across old age. Historian Barbara H. Rosenwein, age 80, challenges the idea that old age is a period of decline. Sans everything. Her book, Winter Dreams, shows that older adults have always retained emotional complexity, desires, and inner lives, even when society stereotypes them otherwise. She uses her own family as examples of diverse aging experiences, from a grandmother who felt old at 60 to a mother in law who lived vibrantly into her 80s, to winter dreams as a concept. Rosenwein uses winter dreams to describe the aspirational, comforting fantasizes or hopes that sustain people in later life. Her mother, who had dementia, lived in a joyful fantasy world. An example Rosenwein frames not as tragedy but as a meaningful emotional reality. Ancient Greece as a model for honoring elders. The article highlights several practices and attitudes from in antiquity that contrast sharply with modern ageism. Family responsibility family responsibility. Sons were expected to care for aging parents. Social esteem. Homeric literature depicts older men as respectful, admired, and proud of their life's achievements. Philosophical value. So creates explicitly valued conversations with the very old, seeing them as guides who had traveled the road others would follow. These examples are used to argue that ancient cultures embedded respect for elders into daily life, not as a charity, but as social wisdom. 4. Modern Britain's contrasting attitudes. The article suggests that Britain often frames old age through decline, de- dependency, and invisibility rather than emotional richness or social contribution. The author critiques the term elderly itself as a flattering and demeaning. Why the ancient model matters now. The piece implies that reclaiming older adults as sources of wisdom, joy, and emotional depth could reshape how Britain and by extensions other modern societies approaches aging. It gestures it gestures toward a culture shift from managing old age to honoring it. Broader cultural resonance. Although the article is framed around Britain, its themes echo across your work. The need to change, the need to challenge stereotypes about aging, the importance of intergenerational connection, the value of seeing elders as whole people, not problems to solve, the role of storytelling and cultural memory, shaping how societies treat older adults. One actionable follow up for your caregiving and podcast work. Would you like me to turn this into a segment online? For example, what ancient Greece can teach us about aging with dignity, tailored for your audience of caregivers and community educators. Here is a clear, structured summary of the Carol Malone argument referenced on the page you're viewing. Grounded in the content from your tab. The main points of Carol Malone's argument. Carol Malone critiques it is woven into a broader discussion about how Britain treats older adults. Her position can be summarized in four core claims. One, Britain routinely disrespects and infantiles older people. Malone argues that many older adults are treated as if they're incapable of making their own decisions. Examples highlighted include patronizing rules in care homes, such as banning residents from having a drink despite having lived independently for decades. Policies and attitudes that assume older adults lack a judgment or agency. The system strips elders of autonomy and dignity. She sees current practices as a form of institutionalized consension, where older people are told they can and cannot do their preferences, habits, and lifelong routines are overridden for their own good. This, she argues, is a profound failure to respect their humanity. 3. Society frames older adults as burdens rather than contributors. Malone criticizes the cultural narrative that paints older people as in the way, too expensive, or holding back progress. She believes this narrative fuels neglect and underinvestments in elder care. Britain must radically rethink its attitudes towards aging. Her stance aligns with the article's broader theme. We need to stop treating older adults as problems to manage and instead recognize their experience, wisdom, and right to self determination. She sees the current state as a national disgrace, especially compared to cultures, ancient and modern, that embed respect for elders into law, family life, and public norms. How this fits how this fits the page's larger message. The article uses Malone's critique to reinforce its central argument. Britain's treatment of older adults is not inevitable, it's cultural, and cultures can change. Ancient Greece is offered as a counter example where respect was codified. and family responsibility was expected, and elders were valued for their insights. Okay, guys, that is your C for tonight. I will be back on in a bit for D. So give me a little bit, please, and I'll be back on with D for you. For now, Gator Wellness, take care, folks.